All right, the 49ers have had their Friday practice. They depart for Seattle on Saturday. So they had to release their official injury report for this upcoming game. The two rookies aren't going to play. They're both listed as doubtful. That's Jordan Watkins, a wide receiver, and Jordan James, the running back. Of course, though, all eyes were on Christian McCaffrey from the moment the media went out there for that brief practice period in which we can watch the 49ers basically warm up before practice. All eyes were on Christian McCaffrey. And I think some people saw that number 23 was out there and immediately tweeted out that he was practicing. But what was very clear, obviously, was that he wasn't with his teammates. He was over on a side field working with a member of the 49ers athletic training staff. Christian McCaffrey did not practice on Friday, and he had a limited practice on Thursday. We'll get into that a little bit, but the 49ers officially list him as questionable heading into week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. So what does that mean? Kyle Shanahan was very terse when speaking to the media. He wanted to keep it to only and not anything more than what the NFL requires teams to release about injured players. And so during training camp, teams aren't required to release any kind of injury information. But once the regular season starts, teams have to announce who practiced and to what degree. Either players who are coming off of injuries or who are receiving treatment for injuries. Even if they practice fully, the team has to note that a player who's still receiving treatment practiced fully. Case in point, Upton Stout had been listed on Wednesday, full participant. Michael Williams, CJ West, those guys were full participants, but they were on the injury report. So when a player does have an injury condition, it's either a limited practice or no practice. And so what caught everybody's attention on Thursday was that Christian McCaffrey was listed as limited practice with a calf injury. On Friday, no practice. And so once again, Kyle Shanahan didn't reveal anything beyond basically what was reported. I did ask him, was this something that happened during Thursday's practice? He confirmed that. But really, the big takeaways were from what Christian McCaffrey said when he spoke to the media in the locker room after practice. He described the calf injury as nothing serious. I can tell you that. I feel great with where I'm at. And then he acknowledged, this is a guy that had the calf injury in the early training camp last year, didn't practice through all of training camp, was listed as questionable for week 1 against the Jets with the calf injury. Did not play, was inactive for that game, went on injured reserve, and then later we find out that it's bilateral Achilles tendonitis, which meant Achilles tendonitis in both legs. So what he said, and he acknowledged this, that quite clearly, once he was listed on the injury report, it causes a firestorm. A lot of, obviously, 49er fans very interested in the status of Christian McCaffrey because so many of the 49ers' hopes of improving on that 16-11 season and making a return to the playoffs and making a return to a deep playoff run hinges on a healthy Christian McCaffrey. He is that vitally important to the San Francisco 49ers. So he acknowledged that the past plays a big role into how this is perceived. And he said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, when you have an injury history that I have, sometimes you don't practice, things get blown out of proportion. But like I said, I feel great." Now, by getting things blown out of proportion, I don't know specifically whether he was referring to the media, the public, social media, or with the San Francisco 49ers, in this case, deciding don't practice on Friday to not try to exacerbate the injury issue that you have. Someone asked him whether this feels different than last summer when he was experiencing it, and he really didn't get an answer. He says, "I forgot about it." I think, well, first off, he said, "Yeah, I forgot about last summer and the year before that and the year before that." He said that his sole focus is on playing Seattle on Sunday. As it pertains to him not going through a full practice on Thursday because of the calf situation. He offered this, I believe, interesting insight into his mindset, maybe the maturity, but certainly learning from past mistakes. Here's what he said. He said, I felt like it was the smart thing to do to not finish the practice because I've been there before and I've been my own worst enemy in situations like that. I was proud of myself for not doing it again. He talked about how he fully intends to play in this game week 1. But then he also said, I always expect to play. When asked about whether he should play, considering a long season awaits him, his answer was, look, at the end of the day, if you can play, you play. It's as simple as that. So let's talk about Christian McCaffrey's mindset. A friend reached out to me after hearing what he said, as someone in the sports medicine industry reached out to me and said, is he really BSing, or is he going to play? And my answer was that I don't think he's BSing at all. But just what I know about Christian McCaffrey from being around him, he's wired differently. And he doesn't, I don't think he would look at it like this. This is how I would kind of think about how Christian McCaffrey approaches his way of getting ready for games. So this is the text I said. I said, in essence, the dude is so focused on his job. I don't think he sees it as BSing people. This, again, me writing a text to somebody else, but I worded it kind of the way I wanted to. So I said, I think he does not allow his mind to go to that spot where he might not be available to play in a game that's still 2 days away. I said, I think in his mind, he truly believes he's playing and he's getting prepared mentally to play. It's not in his nature to shut it down 2 days before a game and give himself no hope of playing. So that's how I would describe it. So is he going to play on Sunday? I have no idea. And I suspect we won't know. Anybody will know outside of the 49ers until 90 minutes before kickoff. That's when teams have to designate their inactive players for the game. So I don't think, a word might leak out whether he's playing or not. But I think in his mind, he's preparing to play. He's still watching film. He's getting his body right and everything else. And so I don't know. I don't want to speculate whether I think he's going to play or whether I think he's not going to play. I will say this, though. And again, I don't think a year ago he was BSing us when he said that he fully intended to play in that game against the Jets, because I just think that's the way he's wired. That's what makes him such a great player, who has a maniacal work ethic. I mean, I would say in all my years of covering the NFL, the number one practice player, the guy who worked the hardest that I saw, was Jerry Rice. He was, I often refer to Jerry Rice as the best practice player I've ever seen, and also the best football player in game situations I've ever seen. A lot of times when people say, oh, he was a good practice player, it's an insult. It's not with Jerry Rice. He was the same guy on the practice field as he was on Sundays. Christian McCaffrey, kind of the same way as far as how he approaches things. So what happens? I don't know. He talked about being his own worst enemy. I remember last year when the 49ers deactivated him for that game and then placed him on IR, which makes him ineligible for 4 games. I think John Lynch said it then. Sometimes you have to save Christian McCaffrey from Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know that the 49ers are going to do that. Maybe what Christian said is entirely 100% accurate, that he feels great. I have a hard time believing, though, that he feels great, because he removed himself from practice on a Thursday. Now, in his mind, is he feeling great? Is it mind over matter to say, I'm feeling great? I do it all the time. Sometimes when I'm not feeling well, and I'll try to convince myself that I'm feeling better because I think it'll have a positive impact. Okay, now I'm being ridiculous, right? Comparing myself to Christian McCaffrey. I haven't been around too many people who are wired like Christian McCaffrey, so that's what I think, that he is in his mind. I think he honestly believes he's playing Sunday. Whether he does or not, that isn't entirely up to him. Obviously, he's going to have a big say in this. But also, I think maybe what gives the 49ers hope is that he did pull himself out of that practice on Thursday. He did not practice on Friday, as he was on a side field getting ready for this game. So what the 49ers do if, and that's a big if, right? If he's unable to play on Sunday, it's going to be Brian Robinson. It's going to be Isaac Guerendo. Guerendo knows the playbook inside and out. This is his second season with the team. Brian Robinson just got here a week or so ago, but he's learning and he's trying to pick things up as well as he can, both in the run game, in the pass game, and also the blitz pickup or pass protection game. So he's trying to make himself available to have a large chunk of that playbook. But I would think that Isaac Guerendo, would be the guy, maybe not the starter, but I would think that if McCaffrey isn't available, that Guerendo and Brian Robinson play a lot. Also, might be counterintuitive to think this, but I would also think that without McCaffrey and what he offers up in the passing game, the 49ers might try to be more run dominated, more run centralized as far as controlling that game, because I think it's less complex for a running back to line up and run the ball with Guerendo or Robinson. It's in the passing game where I think it takes more nuance. So maybe on third downs, it's Isaac. It would be Kyle Juszczyk, perhaps, single back in those situations. Maybe they keep Luke Farrell, the second tight end into block as kind of a sixth offensive lineman. And then it's, sending the four eligibles, the other four eligibles out there, whether it's, Juszczyk, who has a history, obviously, as a tight end, but also Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle. So that's how I see it. It'll be interesting to see how this happens, as going back to what McCaffrey said. If he's ready, if he's able to play, he should play. But from the 49ers standpoint, I think they have to have a higher bar on this. Only play him like if they know physically he's there, he's ready to go. And I guess there's always the risk of more injury or an aggravation, but those are the kinds of things that the 49ers have to consider heading into week one. Christian McCaffrey, certainly all eyes will be on him on Sunday, 90 minutes before kickoff, whether he is one of the inactives and ready to go or not. All right. Thanks for watching this video, and that is it for now.